Welcome to Smith Weekly Discussions, an occasional program for our members of Smith Weekly Research. Please note this program is a private discussion and everything contained herein is for entertainment and educational purposes only. With that, we hope you're in a comfortable position along with your favorite beverage to enjoy the discussion. We remind our audience to examine our show notes attached to each of our shows to better understand how our program functions. Before we get into our discussion, we want to say thanks for questions coming from our audience at Smith Weekly, including Mike P., Sean M., and John B. On the program today as a returning guest, David D'Onofrio has joined us. David is the Chief Executive Officer of White Gold Corp, a Yukon, Canada-focused gold exploration company that has a notable land position of over 350,000 hectares with multiple deposits, including Golden Saddle and Arc. The company is listed on the Toronto Venture Exchange under the symbol WGO and also on the US OTC markets under the symbol WHGOF. David, welcome back.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming back. And how about those market conditions in general, David? What are your thoughts on the junior sector here, and how long do you see this prevailing in the sector? And what are your thoughts on the broad market?
Well, I'm not a macroeconomist, but I've been doing this for a long time, so I can give you sort of my what I think personally. The gold junior mine or the entire junior mining space is you can look at it as a risk sector, right? So I think broadly speaking, the markets are in a risk off phase right now, and you see that with the technology companies, et cetera. And notwithstanding that we still have relatively very high commodity prices, there's been a huge pullback in the junior equities, right? And I think the best analogy I've seen that sort of, and I think it's a huge disconnect, frankly, and what could be a great opportunity, for sort of investment. But you look at, the gold price in the last little while hasn't really moved a ton, but you see the GDXJ, which is the barometer for the junior gold market, it's down significantly, right? Whereas when the last time the gold price was around these similar levels, the GDXJ was probably up, I don't know, 30 to 50% from where it is today. So, that signals to me there's a big disconnect. And, what I reconcile that back to is just the general kind of risk off sentiment in the markets overall. But that I think will change. It's obviously, the markets are going through a lot. The world is going through a lot. It's a pretty crazy time we're living in, but things are cyclical, and hopefully Europe sort of resolves itself for a number of reasons, obviously outside of just the markets. And whatever needs to happen to cool inflation happens, and we get back to more of a normalized scenario, and that's the next 6 months or more. But the markets usually lead economic activity, so I think the markets have been forecasting this slowdown in the economy and for a while now, and so hopefully we're at least halfway through it, if not more, and we're kind of back into the upswing sooner rather than later, which I think should be the case here.
Thanks for the comments on that. It's been a while since you've been on the program. Why don't you give the new audience just a quick overview of White Gold, and then we'll get into some specifics.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. So White Gold is a relatively new company. It's been around for 5 years, but it's really the benefactor of 2 decades of work in this district of the Yukon. And just to give people some context as to why I think the company is so unique and so differentiated and such a great opportunity, and why we as the Power One Group are so heavily involved and very excited about it. I can kind of walk you through that. And just for a little bit more background on myself, the Power One Group, we're a merchant bank based in Toronto. We're diversified, but exploration is something that's always been a huge focus for us, and we've been very fortunate to be involved with a number of very high profile exploration success stories. And for us, success is going from early stage grassroots exploration, making a big discovery, delineating a deposit, and then eventually getting taken out, hopefully by a major. And this company has all those ingredients that led to the successes in the past. And actually, if you look in aggregate, I think it has more than any of the other ones have had. So based on that, that's sort of really the reason why. And what makes it so different is that a few things. So number one, where it is. We're in the Yukon in Canada. Canada obviously is a top mining jurisdiction globally. Jurisdictional risk, in our view, has always been something that's very important. I think today it's never been more important, right? You look at what's going on around the world, even sort of countries which are notorious and for mining, and mining is a part of their backbone, are still, are causing increasing challenges, with permitting, et cetera. This stuff is all very important, needs to be done right, but at a certain point in time, it becomes prohibitive, and what that means is just investor dollars don't want to go there because the risk is too high. And I think we're very fortunate to be in Canada that doesn't have that situation. And you don't have to just take my word for it. You have places like the Fraser Institute, which ranks these jurisdictions annually. And the Yukon, I think, is a top 10 jurisdiction for many, many years, as far as I can kind of remember. So I think that's a huge thing that investors need to look at these days when looking to, how to allocate their investment dollars. And we see it in real life. Like, you look at our neighbor is Newmont, the largest mining company in the world that is advancing the Coffee project. That's a multi-million ounce gold deposit, which we're sort of contiguous to on different sides. And that's where we're drilling right now on our Betty property, which I'll get into, which is an extremely exciting project where we had a big high-grade discovery last year. But they've just gotten major sign-offs by all three levels of government to advance that project, and that's the federal, territorial, and First Nations governments. And now they're moving through the permitting process, right? So, these are some of the best operators in the world. They've chosen to be there, and they've chosen to invest to advance these projects. So, that's further validation of the opportunity in that district. So that's important. The most important is the prospectivity of the geology, right? So you have an area here that is in this great jurisdiction of Canada, but really has not seen much modern day exploration, right? And that's kind of weird, especially considering that this was the site, our property portfolio, which is, massive, by the terms of any junior company, right? We're, almost 1 million acres to 350,000 hectares. There are not many companies that have a package that big. And this is basically covering areas which have seen some of the richest and most prolific placer gold production ever, right? And this all started back in the late 1800s when there's the massive Klondike gold rush. I think people have sort of all seen that in the history books. And to this day, though, there's continued to be placer gold production in these areas, and even these are some of the most exciting programs on like Discovery Network with Gold Rush. People's allure to these riches is strong today, and in that time, there's been recorded 20 million ounces of gold that's literally been found on the surface, right? So, I don't think it's a stretch to think that if you have 20 million ounces of gold sitting in the creek beds, that there could be a high probability of much more gold in the hard rock earth below it. And that thesis is what drew Sean Ryan there. He's our partner. He's, the notorious prospector, multi-time winner, Prospector of the Year awards, New York Times Magazine cover for his accomplishments. And he went there and, with that thesis and what he, and what he had done is he has developed an exploration approach, which I think has cracked the code for the district, and his work has led to 2 multi-million ounce discoveries in a very short period of time. And, people ask the question, what is this guy doing? And, why did nobody go before him? And the answer, is actually quite simple. This area of Canada or North America has not been glaciated. So typically what that means is that, there's a lot of soil just covering the bedrock. What that caused was a situation which prevented, prospectors from using their standard prospecting techniques, which is basically, you have outcrop. When the glaciers come, it acts like a big bulldozer. It peels away all the topsoil and exposes the bedrock. And then in areas like Quebec and other areas, Ontario and other areas in North America, you prospect, you go by, you see some outcropping rock that looks interesting, you chip it off with your ball peen hammer, and you take it to the lab and you see what the analysis is. But with no outcrop, you can't do that. It's only like 2% outcrop in this part of the Yukon. So Sean said, okay, well, let me figure out a different way to analyze what could be indicative of the bedrock. And he used soil geochemistry. Soil geochemistry, it is complicated, but, you're not necessarily just looking for gold. There's other pathfinder elements which can, key into mineralized systems. And Sean's he's a data nut, and he just researches, and he was able to key into which of these pathfinder elements might be the best indicators. And in doing that over the course of 20 years, was able to identify mineralized systems. And then once you find the mineralized system, then you invest to do the more advanced exploration work, the geophysics, and obviously trenching, drilling. He's proven that his approach is very accurate. And that led to two big discoveries in the district, which are the Golden Saddle deposit, and that was acquired by Kinross for 140 million. And then there was the Coffee deposit, which was acquired by Gold Corp for 540 million. And that was all within a few years of him starting that. So we really believe he's kind of cracked the code for how to identify these mineralized systems. And what he's done in the meantime is basically gone and tied up the entire district where he thinks, the best prospects are for these mineralized systems. And we now own about 30 to 35% of the claims in the district. But what that really represents is 80% of the known targets in the district based on his work and work done by other companies there over the last 20 years. And that represents hundreds of millions of dollars of work, including the work we've done. And to have that all in one company is pretty incredible. And the way we view it and the way potential investors can view it is it's like owning an entire camp, right? It's like if you were able 100 years ago and invest in owning all of the Nevada gold fields or all of Timmins or all of Val-d'Or, that's the type of opportunity we see. We've scratched the surface. Like these discoveries are all from surface, and there's really, to my knowledge, not many places in tier 1 jurisdictions where discoveries are being made at surface. Right now, if you look at these top mining jurisdictions, they're going deeper and deeper and deeper, and they're finding gold, but that's economically more expensive. Whereas the best place you can find gold is close to the surface, and that's what we're doing. And with that success, you can sort of just continue to dream. Is you may have 100 years of new discoveries find, and we own, like I said, 80% of what's known right now, which is this incredible land package, all in one company. So there is just not too many companies out there that can boast, I think, that type of opportunity. And it's not just a thesis anymore. So in the last 5 or 6 years since we've been partnered with Sean and doing the work, we've continued his work. And now we're at the point where we really are able to identify and make the discoveries. That's the drilling phase. And that's where you build the real value for companies and shareholders. And we have now made a number of very interesting new discoveries, two of which we're drilling like right now, literally these months. This is our active time of the year. Happy to go into those in more detail.
David, that's a heck of an overview. I appreciate that. I want to get into some of the projects in the upcoming drill program in just a moment, but can you update us here on the capital structure, shares outstanding, cash on hand, and also the major shareholders?
So that's actually a good point. Something else that differentiates us, which I should have mentioned earlier. So our major shareholders include sort of probably some of the best and most strategic shareholders you can kind of hope for. Two of them are Agnico Eagle and Kinross, two of the best and biggest mining companies in the world. And the way they became shareholders, it's a great story. Like, once we sort of tied this package up, and basically, we figured we realized what we had on hand, how excited we were about it. We thought major mining companies would be interested in the major mining companies usually don't get in so early on. We just thought the prospect, the opportunities are so incredibly unique that it'd be worthwhile to just have those early conversations. And when we had those conversations, we were blown away. Like all the majors we talked to, like we have a great relationship with a lot of them from having sold projects in the past. They were all of them interested in becoming our partner. And from that group, we chose Agnico. We just felt that the chemistry was so great between them and us. They know how to work in northern Canada. Technically they're so strong. So we chose them. So they came in as a 20% shareholder in our company. And then I mentioned that Kinross had acquired Sean's first discovery, Underworld deposit, which we now own. And how that happened was we basically said, you know what, guys, we're your neighbor here. We own everything else. We have the team that made your discovery. We think this area, we're just scratching the surface. Do you want to sort of collaborate in some form to continue to advance the district? And where those conversations led to, they said, like, listen, you guys are the guys that are most knowledgeable in the world here. Why don't we, combine our respective portfolios to create like a super company that basically owns this entire district? And that's how that became for them to be our other major shareholder corporate. And other than that, it's Sean Ryan and the Power One Group. We're the initial founding partners. We're the next largest shareholders to those two guys. And then we're very fortunate to have some of the most sophisticated financial institutions, mining investors, as investors as well.
David, and how about just the shares?
Share count, we're about 150 million shares out right now. And cash, we did financing last year. It closed right at the end of December for $9 million. Basically, after we made our discovery on our Betty property of 50 meters of 3.5 grams, very close to surface. The market kind of really reacted well to that. And, our partner Agnico basically said, listen, like we want to top up to own as much money as we can to get it to 19.9%. And so on the backs of that, we did like financing about 90 cents. We raised $9 million, and that was enough to fully fund our exploration program for this year, which is $6 million, pretty active program, especially for a junior, and take us well through into next year. So we're, well cashed up.
Financing, assuming there's some good results that come out before the end of the year, do you guys expect to top up on capital, or do you see you're not really going to finance until maybe next year if you had to?
Yeah, at this point in time, we'll see what the market does, where things are at. We don't need to finance, which is a great position to be in. And, I'm hopeful we're going to have some spectacular results this year like we did last year. And, depending on how things happen, who knows, right? But it's not a need, which is a great place to be in.
So talk about the Betty property drill program that just started up. Talk about the goals here for this program, and then also just talk about the larger drilling program that you guys are working throughout the end of the season here.
Yeah, for sure. So this Betty property, it's contiguous to Newmont's Coffee project, right? That's the one I mentioned, just got permitted, multi-million ounce gold deposit, Sean Ryan discovery. Our project is right along trend, just to the east and contiguous. It has 6 targets that we've been working up over the last number of years, and has seen a little bit of work from a previous operator. And these were actually, I think, some of our most highly anticipated targets to drill. But they didn't get drilled until last year, for better or worse. And the reason was, we just have a lot to look at, and we can only do so much in a year, and we want to make sure when we're drilling, we've done all the preparatory work that we can to try to have the highest probability of success. So we the last couple of years before that, we've been working with this incredible PhD structural geologist. Does a lot of the geophysical analysis, and he's really helped us kind of dial in how we should be drilling it. And the work they've done obviously is great to be able to pluck that discovery hole the way they've done it. So that property there, based on its the fact that it's situated on the same Coffee Creek fault system that hosts the Coffee deposit, that's a great indicator of potential continuity and gold availability. The other sort of interesting fact about that property, it's contiguous also to another enormous deposit. That's the Casino deposit that's owned by Western Copper and Gold. That's like a 20 million ounce gold plus I think it's 9 billion ton copper gold porphyry project. They just put out their feasibility study, multi-billion-dollar project. So we are like truly in elephant country here. There's a lot of geological activity that's going on in this area, and typically, when you see those types of deposits in one area, the prospectivity to have additional deposits is, very high. So we really think that, this property, has incredible prospectivity. We've started to show it on our Betty 4 target. That's where we had the big discovery last year, the 50 meters of 3.5 grams. That hole there was 100 meters to the east of another discovery hole on that property, which was 50 meters of a gram plus. So we've, shown, at least 100 meters of strike there. And this year, what we're doing is now we're looking to extend the strike area to the east and to the west. And we're currently drilling that right now. So pretty excited to see how that plays out. Technically, with that type of gold intersection, you usually, the prospectivity of having an economic deposit is pretty high. There's, a number of studies out there. So with those types of gram meters, that type of continuous gold distribution, the statistics are certainly in our favor, which is a great thing to know. And then the other target on that property, which is 6 kilometers to the east of the Betty Ford, is called the Mascot. That's actually the largest soil anomaly on the project. And that one there has seen a limited amount of drilling from another company about 10 years ago. And they there have also had some, in that historic drilling, some very interesting gold intersections, like 40 meters of 2+ grams. So very, broad zones. There's also been some, high grade, like, 30+ gram type intersections over more narrow zones. So a real mix of gold mineralization. based on, what we're seeing, to sort of have that type of, gold mineralization in that structure, we think, again, it's going to be very, potential highly prospective. And we're now performing, the maiden diamond drill program on that property, right? So to be able to be drilling targets like that in Canada, at surface, in this day and age, I wouldn't, if I wasn't part of it, I would say that, that's crazy. How can you have that opportunity? But, this company does have that opportunity. So this is, why we're just so excited, right? Like, this is not grassroots. This is, we have work done that, there's gold there, and now we just got to go figure out, how these systems work, right? Tie it all together to make more deposits.
Interesting, and looking forward to seeing more of those results coming out of the Betty property there. How about next advancement plans with Golden Saddle and Arc deposits? Anything
Yeah.
planned out there?
So that's the other half of our program this year. And actually, I probably failed to mention this. So notwithstanding that we have this incredibly exciting exploration opportunities in this company, we also have 1.8 million ounces of high grade gold resources within our company, right? So that's a real number, right? There's not many companies with that much size of a gold deposit, 2+ grams, open pittable. In this day and age, quality is king, and that's about as high quality as you can get to, right? So that's the project we started with Kinross rolling it in. We were very keen to take it because our team had drilled it and figured there was a lot more low-hanging fruit to be had there. And as an exploration company, we want to be doing sort of exploration drilling, not delineation drilling. But we just sort of knew that we quickly and inexpensively we could grow that. So we've grown it from about 1 million ounces when we bought it to about a little over 1.5 million. There was another Sean Ryan discoveries just 10 kilometers away, which we acquired a few years ago, called the VG deposit. So we're up to about 1.8 million ounces. And then in the last 3 years, actually, what we've been focusing on is finding more zones of mineralization in a very close proximity to that target, right? Obviously, the best place to look for gold is near existing gold deposits. And what we keyed in on was about 2 kilometers to the west, there's a very large gold and arsenic in soil geological trend. We've actually traced it now. It's about 6 kilometers north-south by about, almost a kilometer east to the west. And that's where we made our Ryan Surprise discovery 3 years ago. We've tapped into what looks to be a sizable potential deposit. We've traced the mineralized zone now 400 meters strike by 400 meters north-south by 450 meters to depth. And that's really with only a relatively limited amount of drilling done. So we think that zone could certainly increase the size of the Golden Saddle and push it north of 2 million ounces. And we've continued to look on that trend. And last year we made another new discovery about a kilometer south of that on a target called the Yulis, where we drilled 20 meters of 7 grams. Again, like, that's a pretty spectacular hole. And so this year, what we're going to be doing is continuing to step around that high grade discovery hole there. We think, any gold that we find there will be accretive to our overall global resources because it's so close to the Golden Saddle deposit. Do a few more holes around the Ryan Surprise. There's some, I think more low-hanging fruit there. Tie it together, maybe be able to add it into a resource come the end of the year. And then there's some interesting anomalies kind of between the two, even though they're contiguous. There's a few hundred meters that hasn't been drilled between them, but we believe the structure continues between the two targets, and see if we can tie it all together, which would be phenomenal if that's the case. If it's not, you have the two separate pods, that's fantastic. But if it all ties together, this is incredible. So this trend has seen hardly no work. The limited amount of work we've done, again, been extremely successful. And we'll also be looking at a number of the other targets on that trend this year. So the opportunity to significantly increase what's already a very sizable deposit significantly is kind of at our fingertips.
How about the Ole's Ridge? How about those drill results, and talk about when you might be doing some work over there?
We've done a few holes. We actually started there, like the diamond drill was there from last year, because that was the last few holes that we drilled. So we started with those. We got 5 holes done so far this year up there. Those are in the lab waiting for results. We've now moved the drill just recently down to the Betty. That's, obviously that's a big core of the focus. Want to make sure we get that done early as possible, so we have the potential to follow up on anything we see later in the season. We'll see what the results, how they come. We're hitting structure, which is good, but you got to wait to see what the labs come back with. And then from there, the way the plan is right now, the drill will move back up to the Ryan Surprise to do those other few holes I just mentioned. So, this year the diamond drilling is basically really focused. I think we're really sort of have the opportunity to, create real value with these holes based on, them being follow-ups on discoveries. And the focus will be on this, what we call the Ryan's Trend, which is the Ryan Surprise and Yuli's target, and on those two Betty property targets, the Betty Ford and the Mascot on that target.
And talking broadly, with Yukon, any comments there with respect to junior M&A activity that you've seen in the area?
Well, you saw that
Any,
Alexco got bought this week by Hecla, right? So that's now
right?
another major coming into the district in a big way. We have Rio Tinto is a very significant shareholder of Western Copper Mining. So, you have the second largest mining company in the world making that investment last year. You have Newmont, the largest gold company in the world there. You have Nico and Kinross are partners. You have Hecla going and making an acquisition there. So these are, some of the smartest mining people in the world making significant investments in this district, right? I think as investors, you can put a lot of credence into what they've done their due diligence and and their views on the prospectivity of this district.
Just speak broadly, any other developments in the Yukon you want to mention? And with that, is anybody knocking on White Gold's door with respect to JVing on any property, or is JVing at this point off limits for White Gold?
I think as a district, it just keeps getting more and more attractive. We have that resource gateway project where the governments are funding hundreds of millions of dollars to upgrade road systems specifically to support mining exploration. So that's unique. Like we just talked about all these majors investing significantly there. The results are continuing to come back very successful. So, all the pieces of the puzzle are coming together. So, from an area to invest in, I think it's one of the best ones out there, and, we're thrilled to be there. And yeah, listen, like from interest perspective, interest is high, right? We have published 1.8 million ounces of gold. I firmly believe it's going to be a lot bigger than that. And that type of a deposit from surface, 2+ grams, there's not many of those in the world, right? So that's certainly on a lot of people's radar. Corporately, what do we do with that? That's a discussion that, the company's evaluating, and there's lots of interest. And so, we're going to figure out what going to make the most sense for the shareholders. Like, there's no doubt that this company, probably a lot of companies are undervalued, but, this company is certainly very undervalued. I think our target prices out there are north of $2. Our stock's probably trading around 40 cents. And, why is there so much, how do you value this company? Well, we have 1.8 million ounces of gold, 2+ grams. Like that alone, we trade, if that's the only thing we had in our company, we're still trading at a huge discount to our peer group. And that's giving zero value to the prospectivity of these other targets like the Betty, where we're having these discoveries, right? Like the reality is, White Gold is probably 4 or 5 different companies in one. If we were broken up, I'm pretty confident the combined market cap would be, multiples of where we are today, right? So we just need to, corporately be able to extract that value for the benefit of our shareholders. And, it really is incredibly undervalued, and, we've got to work to, get that change, and maybe opportunities like this to really explain the company to people will help, right? It's a company that has a lot going on, but that in reality is the opportunity. You own a district, you have a gold deposit, you have some of the best drill results on record in an area, right? You have other major deposits that have been discovered in the area, like the Betty. That's elephant country, right? You can't ask to be in a better area code than that. You have major mining companies making investments, advancing, projects to production. I really couldn't ask for a better set of circumstances. From our internal studies, they don't need $1,800 gold or plus to be economic, right? They're economic at much lower prices. When we did the deals, gold was $1,100, right? And they looked attractive at those gold prices at much smaller sizes. So, we've really built a lot of value in what we've done last few years.
Yeah, some good points there. And certainly if you did break it up into different companies, it probably would get a lot more total market cap overall if you combined everything there. But come back to strategy steps. Talk about what you see happening with this company on strategy, say over the next 18 months.
You build the most value, I think, when you make discoveries, right? So I think we've done that, and we're sort of at the point where we produce a lot of value on our Golden Saddle, ARC, BG, and that area. So I think that property there is ready to go to the next level. What it needs, or what, what the typical progression of a property like that is to go to a feasibility. And our company, that's not what we're built for, right? We're explorationists. So somebody, whether it's obviously we have great mine builders as partners. There's other companies that would I'm sure love to have that type of an asset on their roster, right? For a number of reasons: the size, the grade, the jurisdiction. And I think that's where that company needs to go, that project needs to go to. So the matter is figuring out what's the best way to do that, what's going to be in the best interest of the shareholders for creating value. So in the next, I think that's a fair timeline, 12 to 18 months. We want to figure out what that could look like, right? So that would be there. And then I think that our goal is to continue to do that for decades with what we have. In 2 or 3 years, the Betty will probably be at that point potentially, if the drill results continue to be as successful as they have. So we'll have another project with a bunch of ounces and, looking to monetize in some capacity. And hopefully in the meantime, Newmont's building a mine, or we'll have a mine up and running. And, the Golden Saddle will be a mine, and you'll have, you'll have two different operations that, a mill and a heap leach. And now with this other 1 million acres we have, any zone of gold mineralization we find with the roadway there, it doesn't, we're obviously looking for multi-million ounce deposits, but let's say it's only 500,000 ounces. Well, hey, that's fantastic. It's economical. Now it's like any other mining camp. You put it, on a truck and you bring it to one of the facilities. So everything we find will have the value creation potential. So we really look to be as ourselves as a project generator. The Golden Saddle Arc is the first one I think that makes sense to move on, and we hope to be able to continue to do this for decades to come. Because like I said, I really feel this company represents the ownership of a camp at the early days, like Nevada or any of these Australian gold fields or places in Canada that I mentioned.
And for potential investors who are listening in, David, White Gold stands at about 55 million Canadian market cap. What would you say to those who are listening about the opportunity with this company at this point?
Yeah, I would say that from a risk reward perspective, it's in my view one of the best opportunities out there. Right, your downside should be protected by the fact that you have 1.8 million ounces of high grade gold deposit. Right, that's very unique to have that in any company, let alone a junior. So you have that, right? And then what this company also provides is significant. And to finish that point, and that's very, very undervalued on its own. And then what we also have is this very exciting exploration portfolio. The work we've done is proven to be successful. I really do feel like we've cracked the code. We've made significant new discoveries, some of the best drill holes ever in the district in the recent years. So we have that we're following up on. So it's not just total wildcatting, but I think based on the work that we've seen that have led to the discoveries in the district, I think we have the opportunity for many, many more new discoveries as well. So you really sort of have everything here, and this is the type of company that has the potential to really, really increase in value significantly.
The best way for investors to reach out to the company.
Yeah, listen, we love to talk to our investors or people with interest. You can sort of find our investor email address on our website. I think there's actually a little box there to set up calls and meetings directly. Yeah, reach out to us anytime, and we're happy to do that.
David, well, I appreciate the update. Thanks for coming back, and best of luck on this current drill campaign and progress at the company.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here. Stay tuned. Hopefully we'll be back in short order with some exciting news to talk about.